The top story: House approves close to 2 trillion birr federal government budget for 2025-26 fiscal year. Hello and welcome to EBC World English News, the voice of Pan-Africanism, with me, Shifara Olaka, and thank you for watching us. Now, the House of People's Representatives has unanimously approved 1.93 trillion birr budget for the upcoming 2025-26 Ethiopian fiscal year. The budget has been approved at the 42nd regular session of the House of People's Representatives held today in the presence of Prime Minister Abi Ahmed, where he responded to questions regarding the performance of the 2017 Ethiopian fiscal year. Out of the overall budget, 1.2 trillion birr is allocated for recurrent expenditure, 415 billion birr for capital expenditure, 315 billion birr for subsidies to regional states, and 14 billion birr for regional support to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. A total of 1.5 trillion birr is projected to be collected in the 2018 fiscal year as revenues. Of this amount, 1.1 trillion birr, which constitutes 73%, is expected to be sourced from tax revenues, 236 billion birr from development partners, with the remainder coming from project support and other revenue sources. The budget aims to achieve the national goals, namely protecting national security, boosting production and productivity, as well as providing assistance for citizens displaced by natural and man-made disasters. Moving on, Prime Minister Abi Ahmed says Ethiopia has achieved remarkable progress across all sectors, describing the past year as one of the most transformative and unprecedented victories in the nation's history. The Premier announced that Ethiopia has produced an impressive 1.5 billion quintals of agricultural products in the current fiscal year, registering a 24.7% increase compared to the previous year.
Appearing before lawmakers at the House of People's Representatives, Prime Minister Abi Ahmed has addressed a wide range of questions raised by members of parliament. His remarks covered key national issues including economic performance, debt management, and Ethiopia's broader development trajectory. In his response to economic issues, the Premier said Ethiopia has registered remarkable progress across all sectors in its history.
This year for Ethiopia, indeed, it has been a season of rising. Many results have been achieved. Amazing victories have been achieved in this past year.
As the agriculture is the beacon and key driving force of the nation's economy, Ethiopia has produced 1.5 billion quintals of agricultural products in the current fiscal year.
But this year, 31.8 million acres of land was plowed. So that means we have plowed over 5 million acres of land. What was the result regarding production in this land? General, we were able to produce over 1.2 billion quintals.
Prime Minister Abiy underscored that Ethiopia is striving to achieve 8.4% projected economic growth amid global challenges. He explained that as Sub-Saharan Africa is projected to grow by 3.8% amid global economic challenges and a 7% drop in external aid to the continent, Ethiopia remains on a strong growth path driven by focused reforms and strategic investments.
IMF predicted it to be about 2.8, though it was initially predicted to be 3.3%. When we see the Sub-Sahara countries, there was a prediction for a 4.2% growth, but the other problems of the world affected the sub-Saharan countries, and the growth ended up reduced to 3.8% according to IMF. great results in many other sectors too. So the agriculture sector has received great attention and has also shown great results.
The Premier also announced that the government doesn't take any commercial loans. Instead, it pays off 92 billion birr in the past date. Despite a trade deficit of $8 billion, the government doesn't borrow from the National Bank to cover the gap, he added.
The macro reform in the financial sector, the positive impact it has brought, the Ethiopian Commercial Bank, the Ethiopian government has about 850 to 900 billion birr. We had, loans from the commercial bank. 900 billion debt. If this macro reform did not come, the commercial bank would have collapsed and the financial sector will also have collapsed. The Ethiopian financial sector is supported by the commercial bank. It is the main bank. That 900 billion birr debt.
In his detailed explanation to the parliament, the Premier said Ethiopia is set to produce gas in September.
After the break, Ethiopia, for the first time, Ethiopia would be actually producing gas for into the market. You may say, why wasn't it mentioned to us? We are government. We are workers, we are not talkers. So in the right time we will express it to the public, but until then you have to hide it and complete it in order for, our enemies not to interrupt it.
The Premier told the parliament that 23 million people have been moved out of safety net program.
Now, in a momentous achievement for Ethiopia and the entire Nile Basin, Prime Minister Abi Ahmed announced today that the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has been fully completed, marking a new era of regional development and cooperation. Addressing the 42nd regular session of the House of People's Representatives, the Prime Minister confirmed the preparations are now underway for an official inauguration this September. In a powerful gesture of unity, the Prime Minister has extended formal invitations to Egypt, Sudan, and all Nile Basin nations to take part in the celebration, underscoring Ethiopia's enduring commitment to diplomacy, collaboration, and mutual respect. Jerusalem has more on that.
The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has been completed and preparations are underway for its official inauguration this September. Prime Minister Abi Ahmed confirmed during the 42nd regular session of the House of People's Representatives. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister reaffirmed that Ethiopia's firm commitment to inaugurate the dam despite some calls to disrupt its completion. However, there is nothing that can prevent the inauguration of the GERD, underscoring the milestone significant for Ethiopia and the wider Nile Basin, the Premier noted. Addressing Ethiopia's downstream neighbors, Egypt and Sudan, Prime Minister emphasized that the Renaissance Dam is not a threat but rather a shared opportunity.
The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD is now complete, and we are preparing for its official inauguration. The government of Ethiopia believes in shared progress, shared energy, and shared water. GERD is not a threat, but a shared opportunity, a symbol of regional cooperation and mutual benefit. As long as Ethiopia continues to develop and exist, we will collaborate with Egyptian brothers. We have no ill intention. We don't want Egypt and Sudan to be harmed.
Ethiopia remains open and ready for constructive dialogue with Egypt, Sudan, and all the Nile Basin nations, and has officially invited them to join in celebrating the dam's inauguration, marking a historic milestone for regional progress and Ethiopia's renaissance, Prime Minister underscored.
We extend an open invitation to the governments and peoples of Egypt, Sudan, and all Nile Basin nations to join us in celebrating this historic milestone, Ethiopia's Renaissance in September.
በጋራ እናስመርቀዋለን፣ በጋራ እናየዋለን። የሚታዩ ጉዳዮች ካሉም በጋራ እናያለን። ከድርቅ ጋር ተያይዞ በተደጋጋሚ ግብጽ የሚነሳው ነገር ድርቅ በሚሆንበት ሰዓት
While acknowledging the complexities of regional relations, including border tensions, the Premier called for a shared willingness to correct past misunderstandings and build stronger, more respectful partnerships for the future. He highlighted the importance of recognizing when national interests are misguided, advocating for cooperation and mutual respect.
ዲፕሎማሲያዊ መለከት እንደተባለው
Maintaining constructive relations is significant with neighboring countries. We are vital to one another's survival. Not all relationships can be perfect or without challenges. There are always contentious issues, including border matters, that may not align with mutual interests. Our approach is flawed. Coexistence must be based on mutual understanding and shared principles, not on one nation weakening itself for the benefit of another. There is no lasting benefit in sacrificing national interests under the guise of cooperation.
In light of ongoing global instability and shifting challenges, the Prime Minister said that a country like Ethiopia must tread carefully and wisely. He stressed the importance of protecting friends while also staying alert to those with hostile intentions.
የዓለም ሁኔታ ደግሞ አክቲቭሊ መከታተል ያስፈልጋል።
Ethiopia has had enemies in the past and still faces adversaries today. However, we will preserve and continue our path of development. In light of global instability and rapidly shifting dynamics, Ethiopia must navigate the international stage with caution. We must protect our friends, and we must also be wary of those who do not wish us well.
በጣም አስፈላጊ ነን።
Concluding his remarks, the Prime Minister urged for a balanced and thoughtful approach, encouraging the country to respond with strategic awareness of global dynamics.
In another development, Prime Minister Abi Ahmed says wise political reform brings relative peace across Ethiopia. The Prime Minister also calls on religious leaders and scholars to play their fair share in resolving the growing rift between Tigray forces. Shagamata tells you more.
Prime Minister Abi Ahmed responded questions forwarded from the House of People's representatives on the current national peace and security issues of the country. The 42nd regular session was attended by invited guests, foreign ambassadors, representatives of international organizations, religious leaders, and prominent figures, among others. Regarding peace and security of the country, Prime Minister Abi Ahmed outlined Ethiopia's political challenges rooted in distorted political ideology and armored political resistance triggered by racism, unemployment, and foreign intervention. Despite all challenges, the Prime Minister indicated that Ethiopia is seeing relative peace due to wise political reform.
ወደዚህ የመጣው በሪፎርም ውስጥ ይሄንበት በጣም ዋይዝ የሆነ የሪፎርም አፕሮች ነው እንጂ
Wise political reform has brought relative peace across Ethiopia. Before the reform, there were conflicts, displacements in some parts of the country. But now, peace is restored in these areas. Before the reform, there were a threat of national disintegration. But now, there is not. Of course, there are still some challenges with regard to insecurity. What we are witnessing in the country in securing peace is promising, and we are committed to fully restoring peace in the country.
ኢትዮጵያን ካለችበት አዘቅት ወደ ከፍታ እንድትወጣ ስራ ተጀምሯል።
With regard to the Pretoria peace agreement, Prime Minister Abi Ahmed stated that the peace deal brought relief to the Tigray people. He also mentioned that it sets a precedent depicting the government's dedication to peace, and instead of destroying an enemy fighting with the government who had the capacity to do so.
ፕሪቶሪያ ለትግራይ ህዝብ እፎይታ አመጥቷል። ለትግራይ ህዝብ
The Pretoria peace agreement has brought relief to the people in Tigray. A number of soldiers are spared from dying. It also sets a new precedent in terms of appointing a leader from which they were fighting us. The government could defeat this battle But we chose peace. This is a new political culture. Also, many social services like electricity, education and health are restored. The displaced are also reunited in Raya and Salamt. But the DDR is not implemented and the displaced in Walqait have not reunited. We are committed to accomplishing all these and all parties must cooperate with us to do so.
However, due to the rift with Tigray forces, the Prime Minister called on religious fathers and scholars to immediately mediate hostilities created between the federal government and these forces.
አንድ መልእክት ማስተላለፍ እንፈልገው የሃይማኖት አባቶች የሁሉም እምነት አባቶች እዚህ ተወካዮች አላችሁ
Religious fathers, merchants and scholars, you need to do an act of reconciliation with the Tigray forces before never too late. There is a growing rift between the federal government and the Tigray forces. If war broke out, it will be difficult. As a federal government, our priority is peace and we do not want conflict to resurface once again.
አሁን ሚናችሁን ተወጡ በእኛ በኩል በትግራይ ምድር አንድ ጥቂት መተኮስ ፍላጎት የለም
The Prime Minister finally urged all opposition political parties and armed groups to participate in the national dialogue process to discuss and resolve national issues.
Well, the viewers, you have been watching ABC World, the voice of Pan-Africanism. Now a quick recap of the top story. House approves close to 2 trillion birr federal government budget for 2025-26 fiscal year. And with that, we come to the end of today's news. Many thanks for watching us. Bye-bye.